absolutely.
All right, so let me see here. It's 12 o'clock, and I just want to make sure that technology has done what it's supposed to do.
I know, right? I mean, I'm sure you have better luck than me because it never works for me. Something always goes wrong.
Yeah, so we are here and everyone can see us and it's looking great. So I'm glad that we were able to make it. Where are you right now?
So I'm actually based in Bethesda, Maryland, but my husband is from Cape Town, South Africa. And so we decided to, just for a temporary while, to move back to Cape Town to be closer to family. So I'm in Cape Town right now.
Oh my goodness. It's just so amazing. Like with all the challenges of COVID, many of
Yeah.
us have become so proficient with technology. And for you to be in Cape Town and for me to be in the Washington, D.C. area, and it just kind of feels like you're right here. And I think what helped is I could see light coming from your window too.
Yes. So this is our summer right now. So it's like long evenings, and yeah, it. Do you know? I don't know for you, Rosalie, but for me, one of the things COVID has highlighted, and I think this will resonate with some of your viewers, is that the importance of relationships, and in particular the connections we have with loved ones, is just something that I felt like I took for granted before COVID. And I'm also a mother of two young children, and I really wanted my children to know their grandparents and to have that connection with part of their heritage. And so I'm just so grateful, really, for the opportunity to just spend some really um, intimate time with my South African family. So it's a really wonderful opportunity, and I'm grateful that we could make it before things got a little bit chaotic, and now we can return until things start to calm down a bit. So
Yeah, yeah. I really appreciate that you highlighted that I guess revelation that many of us have experienced during this past year because I can agree with you personally that I took, my relationships with others for granted until it became very challenging to maintain connections with them and
mm,
then to have to do it in such an environment, where we're not physically touching each other or even hugging each other as far as a greeting or even that energy that's felt in person with somebody is lost, but I think we're trying to like be able to feel that through the screen.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that there's definitely hopefulness for the future. That's the sense that I'm hearing and feeling from many people, and then
yeah.
that's a great emotion to have
Yes,
right now.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And we all need to feel that, right? We all need to feel like we're appreciated and heard, and that is very strong, almost with family members, and people, loved ones. So it's really, really a privilege, and it shouldn't be, but it's a privilege. I feel that if you have the opportunity to connect with your family in a safe way right now, I mean, it's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you're here, Annika. I want to go ahead and just start by introducing you to our viewers and giving a little background about who you are. And then I'm so excited for you to speak about hypnobirthing as well as your business and the services that you provide. And I think that the information that you're going to provide today is going to be so helpful for many, many women and their families. And so I just can't wait to get started.
Thank you.
So let me go ahead and introduce everyone to you. So everyone, this is Annika. She set up Janu Joyful Services with the intention of bringing together birth workers and hypnobirthing practitioners to help birthing women with a peaceful and fearless birthing experiences. ANUKA is also a mindfulness-based leadership coach. She mentors executives, entrepreneurs, and individuals in becoming confident, mindful, and effective leaders. She's trained as a hypnotherapist and hypnobirthing practitioner and has provided wellness classes for all abilities using these tools for over 5 years. And for over 10 years, Annika has worked in human resources, program management, and executive officer roles, supporting and advising executives in government and international organizations. Across these roles, she's worked in different countries, both in Europe and Africa, and these experiences has shown her how strategy and culture, as well as human connection, can really influence and impact how leaders can work with their employees with more effective leadership, but also have a positive influence on the lives of so many people with so many people from like the conference tables all the way to their dining tables. So that's a little bit of what I'm going to say about her, but I am eager to hear from you about how you got started with hypnobirthing.
Yes, thank you, Rosie. That was a lovely introduction. And hello to everyone that's watching live or joining us in the recording. Really lovely to be with all of you here today and be with the postpartum wellness community. So my name is ANUKA GAZARA-ANTHONY, and as Rosalie very kindly introduced me, I have been working in the field of childbirth education, and also in particular pregnancy, prenatal and postnatal support. My story, and just a very brief version of it, really started 7 years ago when I had my first child. I was living in Geneva, Switzerland at the time, working for an international organization, and working for an organization where it was my first really role working in program management. And so being, the first job out of my university, very young, wanting to really make this, a career of myself and live this life that, we're conditioned to live based on all the opportunities that we're given, but also feeling really stressed out and not being able to have the tools necessarily at that point to really maintain a sense of groundedness and a consciousness of who I am and what am I doing in my work. And then all through that as well, trying to build my relationship, getting married, and then getting pregnant and thinking, well, I really don't need any childbirth education because, I eat really healthy and I do yoga, and that should just be enough to get me through. And for those of you who are aware of the fight-flight syndrome that we as human beings sometimes face when we are in very difficult or stressful situations, for me, I actually went into what we call a freeze state when we got into the hospital on my birthing day. And, when you're pregnant, the most important organ that needs to be, really relaxed to pregnancy is the uterus. And if that is stressed because you're in a freeze state, that means that it's very constricted, and so the blood flow is not happening, and then that sometimes leads to labor completely resting. And that led to me actually experiencing a very long labor. And it got to the point, Rosalie, where the doctor actually didn't really give me much options. He said, either we're going to go and do a C-section, or you're going to have an epidural and I'm going to induce. And so being very ill-informed and not really having the tools to empower myself, but knowing somewhere deep inside that I wanted to have a vaginal birth, and didn't feel like there were complications arising that required me to have a cesarean, I went for the epidural option. And unfortunately for me, I was that 1 in 15,000 women that do suffer from a reaction to an epidural, and it led to me experiencing some nerve damage, which led to a disc prolapse. And so it was a very painful delivery for me. It also led to me having further intervention where they used forceps, and I tore because I was in this freeze state of panic. And so all these factors really contributed to, at the time I didn't really see it as a traumatic experience, but now looking back in hindsight, physiologically it was very traumatic to my body, and even emotionally, I would say. So after going through all of that, Rosalie, and thinking, well, I knew we had both really wanted to have at least two children. And I knew eventually, I would have to go through this again, but I knew that there had to be also another way of doing this. And it just so happened that within 6 months of me giving birth, I had two friends that had the most amazing birth. One gave birth at home, and she had this amazingly calm, energized birth, a very quick actual birthing time of around 2.5 hours. And very importantly, she felt like she had the energy to be able to breastfeed quite comfortably, whereas I didn't, because I tore very badly, and because of the interventions that I had, I actually lost a lot of blood. So I felt very anemic and very energy deprived after I gave birth, which I believe, in my experience, led me to having more complications with breastfeeding. And so I was really, passionate about learning more about what tools did she use to have this wonderful experience at home. And she told me that she had done hypnobirthing with her partner. So I was like, oh, what's hypnobirthing? And in the UK where she was, depending on what town or county you live in, you can have access to free hypnobirthing based on where you live. And so she and her partner had done that, and it had been really, really helpful in her connecting with her body and relaxing her body. And then I thought, I did the research. I thought, oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. And then I kind of, didn't think about it anymore. And then 3 months later, another friend gave birth in hospital. And again, it was just like a really calm birth. She felt very relaxed, and she was able to give birth without any intervention and any tearing as well. And so I thought, okay, and she had also done the hypnobirthing training. And I thought, right, there has to be something to this. And I think because I was still processing physiologically the post-birth effects of the type of delivery I had, mentally, I just wanted to be able to do something to empower myself to kind of move forward with this whole pregnancy birth, And so I ended up going to the UK, doing the program, loving it, and then going back to do training. And I've been teaching it ever since, and it's just been so empowering, Rosalie, especially now during COVID, to be able to give birthing persons and birthing mothers the opportunity to really just connect with their body. It sounds so simple, right? Mind-body connection. But really, in the society that we live in, it's not that simple, because we're not really conditioned in our educational facilities, whether it be high school or, college. No one really takes the time to explain to us, why is it that we need to spend more time in investigating into how our emotions actually react in our body, and that connection between our mindset and our decision making, parts of our brain. How does that relate to the emotions that we feel in our body? And if we can understand that dynamic, it's just so empowering, especially when you're pregnant and about to give birth.
Yeah, Annika, my gosh, I really enjoyed listening to your story and how you learned about hypnobirthing and then actually moved forward with receiving training and making it this career so that you can share this knowledge and these experiences with others. And to your point about your own personal birthing experience, it just sounds like it was such a really scary
Mm.
um, experience and time for you. And as I was listening to you as a mental health practitioner myself, within the perinatal, population, I do frequently talk to women who describe, not identical, similar, not identical situations as yours, but similar situations, and that there isn't a connection to those experiences being traumatic, because I think we think of trauma or traumatic childbirth as one thing, or maybe a certain picture of what that looks like, and it isn't until some time has gone by and we reflect on our own experiences where we get to recognize that what we went through was traumatic for us, and that's what
Yes.
matters. And so I really appreciate just all the just your vulnerability and sharing your story, as well as doing something about what you went through, and like I said, sharing this with everybody. So if you can go in a little deeper and talk about what exactly hypnobirthing is, I think that I'd really appreciate that, as well as the viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just to highlight something you mentioned, which I just think is just so resonant with the movements that we're experiencing right now in terms of women's rights and women development within our societies, of this openness and vulnerability, and knowing that whatever you experience, that's your experience, and not to be told by anyone else that's involved in your birth that that is not what happened, but being allowed to be true to your own experience and feelings and thoughts and emotions about it is just so important. Because as women, especially as birthing mothers and persons, we tend to just put everything ahead of ourselves that is connected solely with the baby, because that's always the first priority, the health and the birth of the baby. But in doing that, we lose that connection sometimes with ourselves. And so for me, hypnobirthing is really a program that is designed to prepare the birthing mother or person and the birthing partner with this philosophy of the mind-body connection during the pregnancy, and also on the birthing day. And one of the ways that we cultivate this connection is by dividing the course into 5 classes. And each class is around 2 to 2.5 hours long. And we go through several different components that really allow the birthing couple to really explore what pregnancy means for them, how is their body reacting in pregnancy, and what can they do to cultivate more calmness and connection with their body, which will ultimately help them for their birthing day. So the first class is very much designed to explore the evidence base of hypnobirthing. So even though I'm trained in hypnobirthing that was created by a woman in the US called Marie Mongan around the 1960s, we actually know that the philosophy of hypnobirthing is over 100 years old, and it started from the work of Dr. Grantley Dick Reed in the United Kingdom in the late 1800s. And so there's been an evolution of childbirth, and in particular natural childbirth. And really this program works on research that has been really cornerstoned by Dr. Grantley Dick Reed, but many others as well in our modern medical system. And so the first class is really looking at the evidence and the science behind hypnobirthing, and really exploring the physiology and the anatomy of how the mind works with this freeze fight state situation, and how that affects us physiologically when we're pregnant as well. So we really go into a lot of detail to understand, so that the birthing person can really understand, why is it important that I take the time to utilize these tools and practices and connect with them, so that I can manage these situations. Because it's so ironic, right, that in COVID we're always talking about uncertainty and managing situations that are new to us. But actually, you know, Rosalie, as well as I do, in birth, it's always been an uncertain environment, right? You know, it's never, you can plan as much as you like, but there's always going to be an element of uncertainty with it. And so understanding how your body reacts really gives you the empowerment to manage that uncertainty. Secondly, we go into then, now you understand the physiology, how can you bring in different birthing techniques during the different stages of labor to support you with that? So we go through 3 stages of different birthing techniques that you can use during the pregnancy as well as on your birthing day. The 3rd and 4th class are really designed to look at the deepening technique. So we explore self-hypnosis. We actually help the partner lead the birthing person into different self-hypnosis scripts that they can also use at different moments, right? Because initially, for example, if you're giving birth at hospital and you haven't had any special complications, you may stay home for a little bit and take your time before you get there. And so during that time, if you're a first-time parent also, how do you create some relaxation? So we will go through different, self-hypnosis for the partners to support the birthing person with really relaxing at home and feeling prepared to transition into the hospital. Then when we get to the hospital, as the contractions start to proceed and the sensations heighten, then we explore 2 different birthing breathing techniques that can actually support in relaxing the uterus and really widening those waves of contractions, which in the long term allow for the birthing phase to be a lot shorter than persons that don't use any kind of childbirth education. And then the 4th class, we go through really a lot of couple dynamics of practices. So we teach the birthing partner some massage tools that includes acupressure, really light touch massage, which, creates this additional endorphin release for the birthing mom or person during the birthing day. And also, how do we use language? So we really explore some communication strategies as well, especially if you enter an environment where, we, of course, especially in the areas that we work in, Rosalie, the DMV, there are so many amazing, amazing nurses, obstetricians, and midwives out there. But of course, they are also just human beings, and they are working in the most stressful periods of and times that we haven't seen for over 100 years. And so, even though you enter the hospital knowing you're going to have the most amazing services provided, there are sometimes elements that may arise because of these stressful situations where, for whatever reason, the medical practitioner might not be able to give you initially the time or the understanding that you require. So how can you learn to communicate in a very mindful way that doesn't aggravate or bring more frustration to the birthing day? So we really explore different communication strategies as well. And then lastly, the 5th class is really designed at looking at the 4th trimester. So how do we prepare for that baby moon, transition, that 1 or 2 months after you get home? How can you prepare yourself before that to allow that transition to be really smoother and calmer? And also we explore the philosophy of breastfeeding and how you can utilize certain positions and tools to increase supply. And what does rehabilitation look like postnatally as well? How can you support your body to really heal after what is really a marathon of an experience, right? Sometimes first-time moms can take up to 20 hours or plus to deliver in labor. So how do you restore and reheal? And so that's what we explore in the 5th class. And that really sums up the hypnobirthing program.
That is quite comprehensive.
Sorry, it may be too comprehensive.
No, I mean, it's a lot of information and also very good and needed. I enjoyed listening to how you go from, supporting and providing education and skills during pregnancy, and then how to create this environment where the birthing person and or her partner are also empowered during the delivery as well. And then, of course, my heart is the fourth trimester. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't think
Yeah.
that we as, society and culture recognize enough the time after we bring baby home and
Yeah.
how much there needs to be more discussion about that time period and the realities of that time period and what recovery looks like, because just because a mother is discharged from the hospital and has been, given the okay 6 weeks later to resume sexual intercourse does not mean that every single part of her has recovered. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
so I'm a little, I could go on about the fourth trimester, but another point that you made is that, especially during COVID times, but any time that there is a delivery, just that given uncertainty, if there's anything certain about the childbirth, is the uncertainty itself. And I love how you pointed out that we do, many of us do research about where we want to deliver and how we want to deliver and to be around those supportive structures. But sometimes, because of things that are out of our control, that we don't get to experience that. So how do we manage that? And so to be
Yeah.
able to go into those situations prepared and with some tools to use is it's very empowering and useful.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you've experienced this, Rosie. I know I have, especially in the DMV over the last couple of years. But, we're also working with a lot of mothers who are giving birth in their 40s now plus. And so that comes as well, especially when they're having their early prenatal visits. There are discussions and words that are used that can sometimes bring up fear in those mothers. And so how can we reassure them and give them tools to really understand that as long as they, look after themselves nutritionally and healthily and also mentally, that they can actually support themselves and still have the pregnancy they desire, regardless of their age. So I think it's really important that, like you say, that we really empower birthing mums with these kind of mental health preparation tools, because there are so many discussions out there, especially to first-time mothers with medicalized practitioners, that can be really frightening, and so how do we manage that in already a very difficult environment?
Yeah, I actually was going to ask you to talk further about why is it important that we understand how stress and anxiety affect birth, and how we can prevent some of the downfall of the effects of stress.
Absolutely. I do feel, and especially because I have worked in the field of mindfulness for over 20 years, and so I've seen for myself the benefits of learning secular tools to really help support you manage your emotions, and through that, managing your mindset, which can actually really, really empower, especially birthing mums, when they are already faced with so much literature and data and statistics that sometimes go against them because of their age. And so learning to understand that it's important to be able to acknowledge all those things, but not allow it to overpower you, especially if you are a birthing mother that does not necessarily have any special circumstances other than the age being of concern. So one of the mental health concerns that I address through hypnobirthing is really empowering birthing couples with techniques to learn how to manage emotions, and especially difficult emotions, by connecting with their breath. And, you know, in COVID times, for some people, even the breath can trigger some traumatic experiences. So I also teach them how they can utilize the sensations in the body, like the feet on the ground, as learning ways to anchor themselves whenever they are feeling especially very heightened emotion like fear. Because, you know, we know, Rosalie, through the research that when a pregnant mother or person experiences fear or any kind of very dramatic emotion, like maybe she's angry, or maybe she's feeling like a very deep anxiety, that can actually directly impact the development of the baby. So it's very important that we learn to teach ourselves how to calm our bodies, and through that manage our emotions. And so I have also designed special birthing and breathing programs where I actually share with couples some physiological as well as mindfulness-based practices to help them in the moment, whether that be work at home or you're having a discussion with your partner and something is triggering you. How can you in the moment create this compassion and kindness towards yourself, and most importantly, able to calm yourself so you're not reacting constantly, where when you're carrying a child, that reaction can sometimes have consequences. So learning to better respond and be much more mindful to your behaviors is very, very important, I believe, during pregnancy in particular as well. So we really go through a lot of emotional intelligence work through some of my birthing and breathing programs as well, understanding our own behavior and our emotions towards our behavior as well. And I bring elements of that into the program.
Wow, that's fantastic. That just sounds so wonderful. Um, I know you started talking about breathing, and I'm going to ask you to talk about that a little bit more because um, I mean, this might be new for some people, like mindfulness and just being aware and present in the moment, and oftentimes confusing mindfulness with meditation. And really, what is breathing have to do with this, right? And like, why is there this focus on the breath? And I always have whatever I say to people, but I really want to hear from you what breathing has to do with all this.
Yeah, sure. So actually, it's a great question. What is mindfulness? And really, for me, and I always just tell, you know, when I'm working with clients, organizations, the simplest definition of mindfulness is just simply being aware. So being aware can be cultivated in different ways. We can do integrated practices. So for example, in a moment, I'll show you a breath that helps us connect with our parasympathetic system. But it can also be dedicated practices where we take time out to sit down and meditate. But meditation is just one of many ways that we can be mindful. And for those of you who are Netflix lovers, I really suggest you check out the wonderful documentary done on Netflix by Headspace that really explores different mindfulness practices to support and manage different emotions as well. But it's a great introductory into exploring this field of mindfulness because it is such an abundant field and there are so many ways to cultivate mindfulness. So for those of you who feel like, oh, just the thought of sitting down for like 10, 20, 30 minutes is just something I don't have time for, know that there are so many practices that you can do in the moment. And those are the ones that I actually empower my birthing couples with, because if you know that it's something you can integrate quite quickly into your day and you don't necessarily have to plan out for it, you're more likely to cultivate a new habit and practice it. But if you think you have to take out special time for it and plan for it, that can sometimes make cultivating new habits really difficult. So know that mindfulness can be achieved as well in the moment, and really just understanding that bringing the element of the breath is fundamental in mindfulness. Why? because we all have access to it, hopefully, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be breathing or living right in this moment. So that's one of the reasons why the breath is always utilized in mindfulness practice. But know also that, oh, have I lost you? I think I've lost you. Oh, oh, great. We managed to come. I was just emailing you saying, don't worry, just let me know when you're back.
Just like, I am so sorry.
Please. Oh my gosh, nothing to apologize about. I mean, I'm living, in Africa where we have constant power outages right now, so it's fine. I'm so used to it.
You're like taking it like, it happens. And I am just like, what in the world is going on?
I was thinking, okay, she's had enough of me. I'm babbling on too much.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. And I think we're still on.
It's live, it's life, it's fine.
Okay, let me see. Are we still on?
It says that we're live on custom streaming, so I'm guessing we're still live, yeah.
Let me just get on my phone and pull up the page and just double check. That's how I double check. Okay. If I see it on I don't see it coming up. Oh, yeah, there we are. As we're talking. Oh gosh, Annika, I'm so sorry, and
No,
everyone.
please. No, nothing
Gosh.
to apologize for. It happens. It's life.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm glad we're back.
Actually, you know what? This might be a great time actually for us to, why don't we practice one of the breaths that I teach called the
Okay.
centering breath, just to help us ground us. And this is a great opportunity for you actually, Rosalie, to see if this breath can help you bring you back and center you, okay?
Thank you.
So I invite you to either close your eyes or lower your gaze and just take a couple of breaths in through the nostrils if you can, and out through the nostrils. And with each inhale, try and allow the belly to just rise to its optimal position. And then as you exhale, allow it to just gently deflate. And in a moment, we're going to do 3 breaths where we're going to inhale for the count of 4 and exhale for the count of 6. And this time and this pace really allows us to tap into our parasympathetic part of our nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that really cultivates calmness, rest, and relaxation in the body. So let's begin now. Let's inhale 2, 3, 4, and exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, feeling the belly rise. And exhaling, maybe noticing the chest and the shoulders gently dropping and relaxing down towards the lower spine. One last time, inhaling, 2, 3, 4, and exhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Letting go of that breath now and coming back to a breath that's comfortable for you. Just breathing in, noticing your feet on the ground, noticing the body on the chair or the seat that you're seated on. And whenever you're ready, gently opening your eyes and coming back into the room.
Perfect.
So that is just one breath that some of your, anyone that's interested in the network that's listening to us now can check out on my website called Birthing and Breathing. And it's called the centering breath because it's really a very deep breath that helps us very automatically connect with that parasympathetic system, which in pregnancy and especially on our birthing day is just so important because it just really relaxes internally all the muscles and most importantly the uterus as well, and allowing for an increase of the endorphin flow. So very, very important breath, but so easy to do in the moment,
So easy, and really, it doesn't take that long either.
Exactly. No, just 3 or 4 breaths of it. And I always say to my clients, like, this is a lifetime breath, actually, especially for first time parents. Like, this is a breath that will go with you into parenthood because, we all experience those moments of just like overwhelm. And regardless of whether it be just in the birthing environment or when you come home or even managing now raising children and working at home, these kind of moments can be really overpowering. So how do we in the moment just ground ourselves when things don't necessarily always go the way we wish? And so this can be a great breath to help you achieve that.
Thank you so much for walking us through that. I'm going to take that with me, and I hope others will as well.
I'm so glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
If you can talk about your practice and the services that you offer, I'd really love to share all that with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those of you who are interested in bringing some mindfulness-based leadership techniques, whether that be to generate more effective communication within your teams, or just on an individual level to bring a bit more purpose and meaning into your work life and also your home life, if you feel a little bit overwhelmed and overloaded by everything that's happening in the world right now, I invite you to check out my website, which is www.janu, joyful, joyful services.com. And we actually teach a combination of mindfulness-based leadership courses in partnership with a friend of mine who's also my business partner called Insius, and she's based in Chicago. And we teach resilience programs, especially what's been really very popular and has been really, really helpful to a lot of medicalized practitioners right now. So something maybe that you might resonate, Rosalie, is our stress management and burnout program, which is just a 1-hour introduction where we really go through a plethora of practices, and we also give you a digital toolkit that you can take away with you to really ensure that you are practicing some of these tools and can really empower them tomorrow in your working day. And actually, we find as well this year that we are bringing in some new self-compassion research that we find has been really, really helpful in helping people connect with themselves in a deeper level. You know, if we can't understand our emotions, it's very difficult then to empathize with each other, and then it's very difficult to build relationships, and that can affect our work in many different ways. So really utilizing compassion and empathy practices for communication and team building can be really efficient right now, especially as we're all working virtually. And like you said, it's hard to connect physiologically. So how do we connect using empathy and compassion? So any of those tools and practices are all on our website. And you can also check out Inseus, that's INSEUS.com. And if you'd like to find me, if you're curious, if you have any questions, I'm on Instagram at Janu Joyful. And I'm also on Facebook at Janu Joyful Services. So I always love to connect with people, especially if you're curious or just, you know, have some questions. Please check me out, and I'm happy to connect with anyone.
Fantastic. I actually was just going to ask you, how do people get in contact with you? So thank you for that. And I do want to clarify that your services are available virtually right now, correct, right?
Yes,
So
they are. Yes. And as soon as I get a vaccine, it'll be in person. But for now, it's virtual. Yeah.
and so with it being virtual, you're able to provide your services really to anyone around the world. Yeah, right?
Yeah, so actually, Rosalie, we're a global business. So we have also teachers in Seattle. And over the last COVID year, we've been teaching, yeah, all over the US and abroad as well.
All right. And then when you get your vaccine and you're back to in-person interaction with people, is that in the DMV area?
Yes, so my business is based in Bethesda, Maryland. So yeah, absolutely. And I work with many doula agencies as well in the DMV area. So happy to support anyone if and when that's possible in person.
Oh, well, I do hope that we are all heading in that direction where many of us will be vaccinated very soon. Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Annika, for being here and for that that disruption and for just letting it roll off your shoulders and bringing us back together with that really effective and very easy and like exercise that doesn't take that much time, but it made me feel really good. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. And thank you so much for this opportunity and just connecting with you, Rosalie. It's been an absolute pleasure just chatting with you. And I really hope that you find some of these tools, helpful, and looking forward to just staying in touch.
Yes,
It's just been a wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.